I'm not fighting no more. Kelly, let me do my job. I just told you I didn't want to do no interviews, and you said you are going to do interviews. Now you told me to do interviews. Now you're trying to take me away from them. No. Let me show Dante's Boxing Nation some love.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's been at the Mayweather Boxing Club for years, grinding, working hard. Dante also, paid a lot of his own money, just like a lot of different other companies, to support us. So I must show love back.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Some big news just in. It was just reported by Los Angeles Times that Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia is being eyed for March 16th in Texas at the AT&T Stadium. In Arlington, Texas, that is. This is great news. Texas is one of the best locations. Matter of fact, it's the best location to host this fight. Errol Spence is from Texas, and Mikey Garcia is going to have a large Mexican fan base rooting for him in Texas. Now, this will be a pay-per-view fight, and that's good for Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia. They're doing their first pay-per-view event, but realistically, I truly believe that pay-per-view is dying out. But nevertheless, if there's no other options, this fight is definitely worth paying for if you're going to pay for a pay-per-view event. Fans often talk about the Mexico versus Puerto Rico rivalry, but the truth is there's no bigger rivalry than Mexico versus USA. And what I mean when I say USA is, of course, Mexican fighters versus black fighters. Even though the majority of Mexican fighters are Mexican American, but because they represent the Mexican flag, that's why I say this is like Mexico versus USA. I mean, even my man Jose Benavidez, his dad said at the press conference leading up to the Terrence Crawford fight, Jose Benavidez Sr., he said, we're going to win this fight for the Mexican people. He didn't say we're going to win this for the American people. So him saying that confirms that once again, this is Mexico versus USA. And once again, I said that this is the biggest rivalry because it becomes far more personal with the boxing fans. Speaking of that, that reminds me of a story Joel Diaz told me. Joel Diaz, the former trainer of Tim Bradley. I remember Joel Diaz because he was training Bradley at the time, right before Bradley fought against Marquez. Matter of fact, training for the Marquez fight, Joel Diaz, he said he had a friend or an associate that wanted to bet him that Marquez was going to beat his fighter, Tim Bradley. So they bet like some big money. And then, of course, after Tim Bradley actually beat Marquez, the guy came back to Joel Diaz and he said, he gave him the money and he said to Joel Diaz, he said, I just don't understand, man. How could you root against your own country? How could you pick someone against your own country? And Joel Diaz is like, bro, I've been training this man, Tim Bradley, since he was a kid. So, I mean, the fact that someone would say to the man's trainer, this man said this to Tim Bradley's trainer, how could you be loyal to someone basically who isn't Mexican? If that's not the ultimate sign of loyalty to your race, then there's no such thing as loyalty. This is why this fight is going to be huge. Fans are going to be extremely passionate about this fight. It's going to do very, very good pay-per-view numbers, I truly believe. The fight kind of reminds me of Oscar De La Hoya versus Hopkins. The funny thing about the De La Hoya versus Hopkins fight is Hopkins was extremely old. He was close to his mid-40s, and Oscar De La Hoya, the only reason Oscar even took that fight is because he said, and I quote, there's no way I'm letting a 40-plus-year-old man beat me. And we know how that fight turned out. Look, there's no doubt about it. Errol Spence, he deserves to be the favorite in this fight, but this is not a mismatch. I'll tell you why this is not a mismatch. Because if Errol Spence was moving up, let's say one weight class, to fight against Canelo or Gennady Golovkin, that would not be perceived as a mismatch. Once again, I said if he was moving up one weight class, because it needs to be understood, Mikey Garcia is only moving up one weight class. He's not moving up two weight classes because he's already fought at junior welterweight twice. This is one of the reasons why I believe Mikey Garcia is going to do better against Errol Spence than any fighter has ever done against Errol. That includes Kell Brook. I believe that this is a real fight. This is going to be a competitive fight. I still lean towards Errol Spence. He still deserves to be the favorite, and I do believe he will go in with a size advantage. I just don't believe it's a mismatch. But it's funny though, because I've seen some messages where some Mikey Garcia fans were like, Dante, I can't believe you want to see this fight. I don't want to see this fight. No one wants to see this. It's not a good fight at all, because they believe, or some fans believe, that Mikey Garcia will lose to Errol Spence. But what's so funny is these are the same fans that wanted to see a 38-year-old Floyd Mayweather against Gennady Golovkin. So we know what time it is with the decafs to say that. But once again, man, this is a big fight. This is a big fight. It really does remind me of those rivalries that we had back in the day. Mosley versus De La Hoya. De La Hoya versus Pernell Whitaker. This fight has that type of feel to me. And the promotion for it should be great. It's going to be a big fight, guys. It's going to be a big fight. So that's what it is. I look forward to covering this fight. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. Matter of fact, let me just say one more thing. Once again, guys, whenever I do a video, and I'm just going to be straight up, whenever I do a video about a Mexican fighter, I can criticize any other fighter in the world, but whenever I say anything, and it don't even have to be criticism, it could just be borderline neutral, and these fans, they get so emotional. They start crying in the comment section. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you disagree with anything that I said, call into my radio show and let's have a conversation. Instead of you taking the easy way out and doing little type buys in the comment section, call me up so we can have an actual conversation. Because anybody could just throw out insults. I want you to tell me what I said that does not logically make sense. Let's have a real conversation. But the majority of these fans, they won't do that because they know that they will be confronted with truth if they do. But once again, if you post in comments in the comment section, but you're afraid to call in, that means deep down, you know what I'm saying is true. But unfortunately, the truth may not go along with your agenda. So once again, man, call in if you believe what you are actually saying, or if you disagree with anything that I've said. That's all I got, y'all.